Okay, it is 10:01. I hereby call to order this Board of Education public hearing. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone can take themselves off of mute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
Today, we will start with a brief overview of the superintendent's fiscal year 2021-22 proposed budget. Dr. De Silva.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday squared. My colleague, John Mansfield, is going to put up a very, very brief overview. Many of our families have already seen this presentation. I reshared it in both of my Friday communications, and I'm just going to give us a real quick summary. Thanks, John. John, do you need me to share it from here?
No, I thought I.
Mine is black. My screen is black.
Is it sharing yet? It's staying on my end of sharing. Is it not sharing?
Is it black for everyone else?
Sharing the black screen.
It's starting up. Oh, just kicked off.
All right, it'll give me one more second.
So actually, while John does that, so just in the interest of time, I just wanted to communicate out a couple of things. The Board of Education obviously receives the same communications that I receive, and sometimes I receive other communications that the board does not receive. And in terms of this particular budget, I just wanted to point out a few items that I think are worth discussing. Art, this board has asked us to revisit art and at least come back with some initial ideas based on the feedback that the Board of Education either feels themselves individually and or the public. And so we had a presentation, as you know, prepared for March 8th. I would have liked to have our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction join us at that time, but it's clear that we needed to come to you sooner. And so as a result, we will be here on February 8th. Dr. Hanaway, alongside our principals and our art teachers, have begun having discussions, at least at the initial stages. And hopefully we can have something that we could share that makes sense, that's meaningful, thoughtful, and not rushed, at least again, as an initial proposal. And we'll have that for the community and for our board on February 8th. In terms of class size, I have received communications around class size, and I feel like I just need to take a moment to reassure families that we do adhere to our class size guidelines. We shared at our last Board of Education meeting that when the school year begins and teachers are assigned and kids are assigned to their classmates, at that point, we do not shift and add a teacher. But we do adhere to those guidelines up until that point. So families that may be concerned with influxes of kids, whether that's in kindergarten or any other grade level, given this year, right, quite frankly, any other year it can happen. I just want to reassure you that we do adhere to the guidelines up until our children are assigned to their teacher and to their classmates. If we have to break a section, we do that, whether it's in the budget or not. So that's a bigger, broader conversation in terms of contingency, but families do need to know that whether it's in the budget or not, we adhere to that. The third topic that hasn't actually come to me, but is, I understand, is buzzing perhaps on social media. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about it, which is Teachers College and the debate around Teachers College and phonics. So I know it came up in last year's budget conversation, and I just want to take a moment to really help. First of all, let me just say this. Any parent that has any question or concern about the teaching of reading should reach out to their building level principal and or us if they have further questions. That's first. But there clearly is, we need to do a better job of communicating the teaching of reading at the elementary level to families and or our vision for the teaching of reading. And so a balanced literacy, very quickly, balanced literacy includes word work, right? Word study, phonics, phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, alongside independent reading, guided reading, small group instruction, etc. Teachers College is a staff we solicit staff development from Teachers College in some of those components. It's not all of them. And so what you heard in our budget workshop last Saturday was our discussion around bringing in a systematic phonics and phonological awareness program to our schools and rolling that out in a very thoughtful way. And I expect that you'll hear more this spring and certainly into the summer and fall. So I just wanted to be sure that I distinguished that that's the work of Teachers College and their staff developers are one part, a sliver of a balanced literacy framework that we will have here in Ridgefield, and we have in Ridgefield, and we'll just be doing that a little bit more systematically. When I look at my notes, I think that's primarily the topics that I've heard from. Again, I continue to urge families to reach out to us with any questions, concerns. That's why we're here. Certainly the building principals know best and the teachers, but when you feel like you've come to a crossroads and need more help, that's us. So please don't hesitate. So a brief overview, again, this was shared on January 11th, and we've discussed it in detail last Saturday. I hope that meeting was helpful. John, you can move to the next slide. So here we are, 10 o'clock again on Saturday for a Board of Education public hearing where we'll hear from the public on their thoughts and feedbacks related to the budget. February 8th, we have a Board of Education public hearing followed by a regular public meeting where families can again come out and share their thoughts on the budget. We will have the presentation on art on February 8th. We also hope to have a summary of some of the work happening with EduLog as well. I know we talked about that this past week. The Board of Education is expected to vote on the budget on the 22nd. And then that budget is submitted to the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen. So that's just a brief little summary for those that are watching. Next, John. So again, I think what families have come to find out in the Board of Education in this proposed budget is that it really is supporting the district and remaining steady and strong. It sets the destination for the future. You're going to be hearing about that later in the spring as we begin to establish a committee to begin planning ahead, and it continuously moves us forward purposefully and incrementally. You know, it's always hard in this kind of climate when you're hearing from families and you're hearing from the board to be sure that the decisions that we're making are thoughtful, meaningful, and aren't going to set us back by too much too fast. Next, John. So again, this is just protecting the experience, preparing for the knowns, planning the mitigating risks. I think that's what you'll notice in this budget. We set the stage for future innovation and creativity, world-class education, and continuing to get better and better. And as we speak through our Board of Education and as we discuss it with the other boards, I'm hopeful that they can see that this budget is very thoughtful in that way, and really preparing us the best that we can. And this is an interesting year coming up, and there's going to be a lot of unknowns. And I'm hopeful that what we've done here protects what we've already have and mitigates the risks for the future. Next, John. In this budget, you see some additions. You see the special education teacher at the high school. Dr. Hanaway spoke about how that balances out with some other pieces in her budget. We have some increased hours with our supervisory paraeducators at our elementary level, and we have a curriculum position included in the budget. We've removed a paraeducator at the high school. We've removed some curriculum stipends at the elementary level. Moving right along, John. Other budget additions, we do have a small allocation for COVID PPEs and substitutes. You saw the bus substitutes along the elementary, middle, and high school lines. We have some additions in hardware, equipment, technology, which gets balanced with some reductions around the leasing. We have decided to remove Math 180 at East Ridge and Scotts Ridge. That was really an instructional reduction that just happened to have a positive impact on the budget. We have to be careful that we distinguish those two things. We've balanced out the club stipends. We've looked at some equipment replacement and taking care of that this year. We've looked at reducing the legal expenses for special education. Again, in a facilities project that we're taking care of this year. And we did a full and comprehensive review of our software and technology which included removing any duplicates of sources that could be used for multiple reasons and multiple grade levels. Next, John. Here it is, the $103,364,072 proposed budget with a 3.45% increase, the lowest in 5 years from the superintendent side. And that's it. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Dr. De Silva. We'll now move into the public comment portion of the day. I will be letting individuals in one at a time to speak for their 3 minutes. I'm going to go in order that they signed up on the Google form. Anyone that did sign up should have received a Zoom invitation to this meeting and should be in the waiting room at this time. Please make sure that your name in the Zoom waiting room will allow me to recognize who it is that I'm supposed to let in next. First person up is going to be Sarah Hanley of 19 Clearview Drive. Sarah, I've let you in. Hi, we can see you. You can take yourself off of mute.
Am I the only one here?
For
You're
now.
speaking to
Okay.
the full board.
Great. Well, I didn't expect that. I do have a little slide presentation if you'd like me, if you would indulge me to share. I'm sure you know I'm Sarah Hanley. I'm here to speak about the art program in the budget at the elementary and middle school levels. My children go to Ridgeberry and Scotts Ridge Middle School, and I'm professional in the art world as well, and art is very important to me, but it's something that I chose later. I was also strong in other areas, but I feel that art education is a very important aspect of children's development, and I have a master's degree in art education. So if you'll indulge me, I'd just like to share a little bit of what I learned in my master's program about the importance of art in developing the whole child. Okay, so I don't know if you can, let's see. All right, let's start at the beginning here. Okay. Okay.
Ms. Hanley, you have about 2 minutes.
Okay, it's short. I knew I didn't have a long time. So Gardner's theory, which you may be familiar with, asserts that there are several types of intelligence that a person may possess, and you can have several different types of these. And our education system tends to focus on, generally, nationally, across and testing wise, on the first two, verbal, mathematical, and then and to different degrees with the others. So spatial is the one assigned to art. And I just thought we'd kind of compared to how the budget is, the staffing level is really all I analyzed. But so how are we doing in addressing those 7 intelligences? So as you can see here, this was based on the staffing for each school, for the elementary and middle schools. We've got a lot of resources in terms of staff toward language and math, and music is orange, but art is the red here. PE, bodily kinesthetic, is blue. And then interpersonal and intrapersonal are the science, social studies and health and so on courses that we offer. So as you see, art has the smallest bit of the pie right now. And our interest is to, my interest and many others is to have it have a little larger section of the pie. As you know, art is a community builder for our community. This is a picture from the downtown art show that we had at the end of the year in 2018. And all the kids were having so much fun together doing this. And these are the types of things that our teachers will no longer have any time to organize. due to the large load of students that they don't have time. Ridgeberry Elementary Art School, this is something that the whole school would come to. It's an empty picture of the art room, but there were hundreds of people there. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is that due to the fact that students have just a short amount of time and less time, they're not going to be able to do the kind of involved higher level art projects that we see here. These are my kids' things, but
You can wrap it up at this point.
yeah. So there's just some more pictures, and this one parent asked me to share this. Her son learned a technique in his elementary art school program, and what he ended up doing with that skill is making a portrait for his teacher of his father who had just passed away, and it really made a lot of impact on his life and his teacher's life. So I'm concerned that those things will not be any longer
Thank you.
available.
You have passed your time at this point, Ms. Henry.
Okay, you've seen these already. That is the end of my slide presentation.
Thank you. Next up, we have Elizabeth Heitner, 26 Takora Trail. And I do not see Mrs. Heitner in the waiting room at this time. I will circle back for her. I'll move on to Jim Heitner. I do not see Jim Heitner either. We'll reach back to them. Mr. Carlo Pellegrino is the next person on the list. Mr. Pellegrino, I am also not seeing in the waiting room. Move on to John Devine, Shattuck Road. And I'm striking out here as well. We'll move on to Nicole Brodsky of 46 Hickory Lane. Do not see. Moving on, we have Kirk Carr of 62 Prospect Ridge. Kirk Carr, I do see, and I'm admitting now. I see Mr. Carr's image. I don't know if he's being able to connect to audio.
I am.
Okay, Mr. Carr, you're up. You have 3 minutes. We're ready when you are. Mr. Carr, if you're on mute and we cannot hear you.
I'm on. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes to provide public comment.
Well, I'm sorry. I would like to listen for a while first, if I may. I don't quite understand how this is supposed to work.
This is a public hearing. We are gathered to receive public comments from members of the public, and you've signed up to provide us comment.
Are we able to hear comments from others?
There is a YouTube live stream of the meeting for when you're not providing your own public comment.
Okay, well, I had sent a question to the superintendent yesterday about a question that was asked in May of last year regarding audits or an audit recommendation for risk assessment, and asked to get an answer to that question. It was originally posed by Erica DeGrazia, and I'm wondering if an answer has ever been forthcoming to her question from May of last year.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Is that all your comment for today?
Well, am I going to will I get an answer to the question?
This is a public hearing. We're just here receiving public comment today.
Okay, that's it for me. Where do I go to watch the live stream?
We have emailed you a link.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carr, there is a link right on the website that gets you to the live session where you don't actually have to make the public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have Danielle Bender of 232 Keeler Drive. And I do not see Danielle Bender in the waiting room. After that, we have John Catzione of 100 Peaceable Street. And I believe I did see that name. There we are. Mr. Catzione, you're being admitted right now. Mr. Catzione, you are in the meeting and you are, it is your turn to provide public comment. You have 3 minutes. Take yourself off of mute and we will be listening to you.
Hi, thank you. So I was just able to log in here. I was on standby for a long time. My comment is I would just like the school superintendent to address at some point how many non-teaching positions the school has and how that has grown and evolved in the last 5, 10, or 20 years, right? We're always asked to pay more into the budgets. We're always asked to support the school. And while the teachers always seem to be the ones who suffer the cuts through canceled programs, it seems like the bureaucratic bloat in the school continues to grow. So my comment is I would like the school to focus on that side of the cost situation in town and give some feedback to the townspeople on what those numbers are. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Catzione. Next on the list is Aaron Clooney of 157 St. John's Road. I am admitting you now, Ms. Clooney. And once you're connected to audio, you're ready to provide public comment now, Ms. Clooney. You're on mute. If you'd like to take yourself off mute, we can start your 3 minutes public comment. There we go.
I'm sorry, are you speaking to me?
Yes, you're up next.
Okay, because I've been sitting in a waiting room. I thought I was under the impression I was going to be able to be with you guys the whole time, but I guess that's not how it works.
That is not how it works. There's a live stream on YouTube of the meeting in progress, and you're in the waiting room to provide public comment. It is now your turn to provide that.
Let me take myself off so you can at least see me. I hate it when you can't see people. Okay, good morning. So I'll try to make it as quick as I can. I'm Aaron Clooney. I live here in Ridgefield, and I have 3 kids, and they're all in different levels. So I have elementary, I have middle school, I have high school. And, you know, I've been here 16 years. I've seen a lot of the board members, the superintendents come and go, and it's always been interesting. And every year we have to kind of fight for certain things. But what came up for me this year is the, and obviously last year and this year is, you know, this is a crazy year, as you know, and you guys have been amazing in terms of adapting to it. So there's a lot of good stuff to go around. But I noticed obviously with last year's budget, which was really tight, and going into this year and speaking to other families and so forth, the arts, they are pretty tight. And it, you know, it shows with I think the teachers doing the best that they can do. But my point is that, you know, being here 16 years and going through all of these budgets, it's always the arts that get cut, you know, and I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. It's the arts and the foreign language. I mean, one year it was German, another year it's, you know, it was history. And then there's arts and so forth. And so, you know, I'd like to just remind you guys in your budgeting that, you know, you don't get science and reading and, you know, math and these really amazing kids doing amazing things without creativity. And and so forth. I mean, you don't have arts without sciences, right? I mean, there's a reason why they go together. And so I wanted to come on and kind of just remind you guys of that. I don't know. I don't see anything in the budget, and I'm not a big budget reader. I don't see anything in there that says, oh, we're going to cut a lot more art this year. You may have done that last year. I know that personally in our elementary school, there is a art teacher. I think it's for the whole district, where the elementary schools, they have to split their time between the, what do you call them? The schools, and they have over like 600 students. And it seems like art on a card running around, and, you know, not only is it not the best environment for learning and imagination and creativity for the students, but it's, you know, it's a little challenging for the teachers. Now, again, everyone has to be adaptable this last year, but going forward, you know, that doesn't fly for me. That doesn't work. We need to be fostering more creativity. We don't want linear students. I mean, and per your guys's, you know, website or your, you know, what you have in the budget, you want world-class education, right? Your vision of a graduate is collaborative, innovative, mindful, communicative, knowledgeable, and resilient. Well, you don't get any of that without creativity. You don't get those students, right? So the idea that we're going to cut more of that going forward, the idea that we're going to cut that and we're going to have these teachers running between schools and doing art on a card. And you know, what I would like to see, I mean, I would like to see people, you know, thinking out of the box. In the high school, they have a class where they take history and English and they meld it together. You know, is there a way to take art and meld it together? That it's this overall theme, it's working with the sciences, you know, or maybe the social studies in the elementary level, the middle school level. Why is art just an art class? Like, could it not be, you know, interspersed with the other classes? Because, you know, again, I just go back to, you can have a pillar, and again, I know that you have the curriculum from the state and so forth, but you can have a pillar of, you know, science and math and English and whatever else in the arts, but the art is underneath all of that. That's where the imagination for all those things gets fostered. And so the idea that we keep cutting that is really aggravating. So I would, excuse me, I'm basically here to ask you guys, please, 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 keep this in mind as we're going forward. I don't see anything in the budget that cuts more of that. Is there a way to put more in so that the teachers aren't running between schools for staffing? Apparently you guys aren't doing anything wrong by the contracts, but that doesn't make it right either. So
thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you. That's
Thank
my
you.
point. So I appreciate you listening today and hearing my comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, as we only have a few members of the public in the waiting room, I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to read off names of people in the waiting room that have signed up. And I'll remind that the people that have signed up for public comment need to follow the Zoom link that they will have received via email to join the waiting room, at which time I can let them in to provide their comment. So moving on, I do have Elaine and John Noonan of 77 Sunset Lane, and they're in the waiting room, and I'm admitting them now. John and Elaine Noonan of Sunset Lane, it is your turn to provide public comment. If you want to take yourself off of mute, you have 3 minutes to provide comment to the Board of Education.
We've been unable to hear anything that's going on. So what's going on? What about the meeting? We're raising less students, more money. Tell us what's happening. We've heard nothing.
This is a public hearing. You have 3 minutes to provide comment to the Board of Education on the proposed budget.
You have 3 minutes to provide a comment on the proposed budget.
Now we can speak?
Fewer students, more money, big question to me.
One of the big things I feel about the budget is this is a year, 2020, that has been horrible for income of so many people here in Ridgefield. And I think it is completely inappropriate for the school board and the school leader to propose all sorts of extra spending at a time when there are so many people in this town who are hurting financially. The school board should be conscious of that. And I think in normal procedures as we run our own families, I think the school board should be a little bit more like that. If we have 10 things that we really would like to have, but we can afford only 5, we should do 5. And this is a time when I think we should stick to economic priorities as to spending. It is ridiculous for our school to have fewer and fewer students and yet employ more and more people to take care of the fewer students. It's disgraceful, and I will vote against the school budget unless they either make it flat, and I would prefer that they would reduce the spending.
That's it.
We're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Next on the list, we have John Noonan. John Noonan of, John Noonan, I see you in the waiting room, but I do not see you listed to make public comment. I do see Jim McGrath, of 3 Peaceable Hill Road. You're in the waiting room, and I'm going to admit you now to provide public comment. Mr. McGrath, if you can hear us. Mr. McGrath, if you can hear us, it is your turn to provide public comment. Mr. McGrath, I can provide you with an extra minute to, I'm going to put you back into the waiting room, or unless you can hear us at this point. Okay, I'm going to move Mr. McGrath back to the waiting room. And we will invite in Mira Jensen, 59 Marshall Road. Ms. Jensen, it is your turn to provide public comment. If you can hear us, you can take yourself off of mute. Ms. Jensen, if you can hear
Oh,
us.
yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you. You're up.
Can you hear me?
3 minutes to provide public comment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate everything that this board and the superintendent and everyone at the district level is doing. As a parent with 2 elementary school students, I think I speak for many when I say that we realize how much goes into our kids' education. I wish there were an easy way to explain it to the public, perhaps, that don't have kids in the school system, but I know how much the district has been doing. What I'd like to say is one thing that I've been thinking about, and I probably am not alone, thinking about the gap between what our children would be learning if it were a non-pandemic year and what they are getting, and what the budget maybe will look at, not what the budget will look at, but how the budget will include looking at that gap. And if the proposed position of the director of elementary education, if that role would help bridge that gap, I think that would be a great thing to speak to, so that there's would be even more support for that position. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are 2 people left in the waiting room. I'm going to go with James's iPad. I'm hoping this is Jim Heitner. James's iPad is not connecting to audio. Do you see Kathleen Murdoch of 264 North Street? Ms. Murdoch, you can hear us. You can unmute your mute and provide public comment.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
iPad is not connecting to audio.
Hi, I'm getting a lot of. Hi, I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm not sure you can hear me.
You can hear us. You can unmute your mute and provide public comment.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Can you hear me? Unfortunately, I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm not sure what you can hear.
Kathleen, we can hear you. So if you want to speak, go ahead. We can hear you.
So I'm not sure you can hear me. Okay. Well, I'll just be brief then. I just want to speak in favor of the budget. I feel that the Board of Education's done everything they can in a very difficult climate. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm not sure.
You may have to close the YouTube link if you have it open on another tab, the live stream. You're going to have to close that. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting an echo.
That's right.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Much better.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to speak in favor of the budget today. I know how hard the Board of Education has worked to come up with the most economical budget possible in these difficult times. You know, I respect the opinion of the people who feel that we should have zero increase or even a reduction in this climate. But I also want to stress the fact that there are going to be serious gaps in our kids' education that we're going to have to make up in the coming year. And while I understand the feeling of some, I feel like this is not the year to be cutting anything from our kids' education. I feel that programs like the arts and other extras really need to be emphasized in the coming year. There are, as I think one person had brought up, you know, the arts are part of what brings the children together. And in a year where we've had everybody working from home or partially in school and not, this is a time that we're going to have to get kids together, get their hands dirty, and let them enjoy learning again. So I support the budget, and I'm asking everyone to join with me to support the 3.45% increase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, the members of the public that have signed up for public comment are not in our Zoom waiting room. I'm going to read out their names again at this point and ask if they are watching on the YouTube stream to follow the Zoom link that was emailed to them, and then we will be able to hear their public comment. Those names again: Elizabeth Heitner, Jim Heitner, Carlo Pellegrino, John Devine, Nicole Brodsky, Danielle Bender, John Catzione, Deb Franceschini Gatchik, Anthony Messina, Jim McGrath, Karen Ogden, Lorraine Catalano, Brian Dobson, and Chris Flynn. If any of you are currently watching the YouTube stream, please follow the Zoom link that was emailed to you so that you can provide public comment. We'll wait a few minutes at this point. As we wait, I just want to point out to the public that this has been very difficult to try to provide a public hearing in a remote manner. We do have another public hearing scheduled for the night of February 8th at 7 o'clock prior to the budget meeting, to the Board of Education meeting that evening. We will look for a different or better way to be able to provide you with an avenue of giving us public comment. In the meantime, we do have one of the people we're waiting for has joined us, John Catzione of 100 Peaceable Street. I'm going to admit you to the Zoom now. And Mr. Catzione, you're now connected to audio. You want to take yourself off of mute, and you have 3 minutes to provide public comment.
Yeah, Jonathan, I've actually already commented. I just wanted to let you guys know it wasn't very clear that you could watch the Zoom on YouTube, then you make your comments here. So I think a lot of folks are in the waiting room not realizing that they have to stay on this link until you admit them. It just wasn't clear in the email. So that I think that's why you have a lot of folks in the waiting room. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll give a couple more minutes. We don't have anybody left in the waiting room other than the ones we tried that did not have any audio. So give another minute or two, and then we'll just have to apologize and hope for a better public hearing outcome on Monday, February 8th. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else joining us in the waiting room this morning. I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
I so move.
Is there a second? Second, Mr. McAvoy. All in favor of adjourning? That's all of us. Thank you all.
Thank you
We'll
all.
see you again on February 8th.
Be well.